This is Kunte Kinteva Artist.
I am Nicole Fletcher Newton.
You are listening to Hope FM.
I'm locked on to Hope 103.1 FM.
High on praise and exaltation.
Grenada's voice of hope.
In the beginning, God entrusted us with the unending care of His creation. Today, as stewards of this earth, we face a challenge that demands our attention: climate change. As followers of Christ, we are called to love our neighbors and care for the least amongst us. Climate change affects the most vulnerable communities, the farmlands and the coastal communities. But there is hope. Together, as a community of faith, we can make a difference. By conserving energy, reducing waste, and advocating for policies that protect people and our planet, we honor God's call to stewardship. Together, let's be the change our world needs. Brought to you by Grenada's Institute for Theological Studies.
Good morning and welcome to Hope 103.1 FM. This morning we're talking about climate readiness or disaster preparedness, disaster readiness. And we have two guests in the studio with us today. That's Ruth Roberts and Tamara Savory. Savory. Thank you for the correction. And today we want to talk about one of Grenada's important agency. I would say it's an establishment that plays a significant role in the life of every one of us, and we have a need to ensure that we know what's happening. In the Christian community, we could be so heavenly minded that we forget that we have to live on earth and we have to occupy here. So when something happens, we are running around like a headless chicken and putting so much pressure on pastors and church leaders because we're hearing all the time to be prepared, to be ready, to take some necessary steps. But we just push it to the back of our mind because we have in our mind, oh, God will take care of us. God will take care of all of my needs. Yes, but those who fail to prepare what?
Yeah, to fail.
To fail offer some hard times. So, I guess welcome and greet our listeners who are listening to you from not only Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, but across the globe. So, greet our guests, please, our listeners.
Good morning. It's good to be here. Greetings to all who are watching and listening. Oh, it seems like.
Okay. Go ahead.
Kind of feedback.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yes. So we'll say greetings to all of our viewers and listeners. It is indeed a pleasure to be here at Hope FM 103.1. And we're here to talk about being prepared for whatever comes our way as much as we can, being prepared and putting things in place so that we can bounce back better.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Ruth Roberts. I'm the Senior Information Officer, and we are here today because we believe that the readiness is resilience, and the more ready we are, to the extent that we are ready, right, that will enable us to be able to respond not only to hurricanes but also to any emergency that are likely to affect us. So thank you for joining from wherever you are. Welcome. This is the National Disaster Management Agency, Grenada.
Oh, yes.
Welcome. Could you just tell our listeners, give us a little background on NADMA itself, the agency, maybe how long it was established, what's the purpose of that organization, because people could have a lot of crazy ideas as to what role it should play in disaster. Is it a disaster management agency or is it a disaster recovery? Or what is its role? So give us a little background and then let's get into into some serious discussion concerning this entity.
Yes, sir. Well, the role of the National Disaster Management Agency is that of coordination. So what we do, in fact, is whatever emergency or hazard or disaster that affects us, what the agency does is to bring other businesses and entities together to ensure that we can respond, right? So that's what we are really all about. So for preparedness and response.
Preparedness and
Right.
response.
Yes. So in like in the, we call it peacetime. Then we talk about preparedness. We talk about what we have to do, getting all our committees together, our teams together. In other words, having national readiness, and there is a format, there is a system by which we operate. So it starts from the individual, then it goes to the family, the community, and the country. So we have a national system that enables us to be able to communicate across both, institutions, businesses, and so there. NADMA, as we know it, is not just the little building that's up on the hill, Manjulu, right? We are the secretariat, so that's where the engine, the engine room, so to speak, right? So that allows us to be able to bring entities together, sit at the table to discuss how we are going to respond. Right,
Okay.
but when there is no incident or whatever sort, then we are in preparedness mode. So we are in perpetual preparedness mode. That's what we are about, not just for the agency's sake, but the national preparedness sake.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we like to speak about it in this way, that the office itself is NADMA as a secretariat. As Mrs. Roberts said, we collaborate with especially the government entities. And also, NADMA's framework is built on volunteerism. So actually, most of who we call the NADMA personnel is actually volunteers. So we consist of 17 districts. So it follows the framework of the parliamentary constituencies. So for example, we have St. Andrew Northwest and Town of St. George, etc., as well as Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So that forms 17 districts. We also have St. David, which is divided into north and south, right? So as we are mainly volunteers, it is the work of NADMA as a secretariat to ensure that the volunteers in the district have the resources that they need. So that includes training as well as physical resources. So as the time progresses, we're going to talk a little bit more about how we equipped the various districts to be ready in case of any hazard and any disaster that would unfold. So as we are in peacetime, as we're referring it to, we are doing a lot of preparation. And also many persons think that NADMA is most active during the hurricane season, which has some truth, but we are responsible for preparing for any hazard that has the potential of becoming a disaster. So that includes earthquakes, tsunamis, floods. So there's always work that is continuing.
Yeah, I was just about to, that was my next question here. Most people will think you're only active during the hurricane season, so 6 months you all are doing nothing, just idle. So I'm asking you now to debunk that myth. That myth.
Well, actually, let me just say, in all honesty, that the work of the National Disaster Management Agency we never stop working.
Right.
And while other people are asleep, we are at work. Obviously, when there is a disaster event, then we go past the midnight into the wee hours of the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, all night kind of a scenario. But generally, what we do, that while what we call peacetime, there's training and preparedness, and so we have to prepare the districts, we have to prepare the family, we have like different kinds of projects, so we are always involved and occupied doing something regardless. We look at the hurricane season, And for many persons, they think it's only hurricanes that we are preparing for. We are focused on a comprehensive disaster management approach. That means that we are preparing for all disasters, right, through all the phases of the disaster cycle at all times. So in to ensure that, for instance, last year, 2024, we had a very good example of what it means to be prepared for all hazards. It's as if we had almost most of the hazards that are presenting themselves before us, right? Oh, we had chicken Jenny, we had
The
oil spill, we had rain, heavy rain, flooding, we had hurricane burial, we had fires, we had a lot of the hazard happening simultaneously. And it gave us an opportunity to be able to kind of assess how we can respond, because most of the times you might think you might prepare for one thing, a hurricane or a storm or earthquake. We had many earthquakes even last year. So we have to begin to rethink. That's what we're trying to help the country to do, rethink the way we think about hazards and disasters, so that we are saying loudly more than anything else that disasters are not natural. So what we do as individuals, as families, as community, as a country, can impact how an event will affect us. And also, I like to use that story. If there is a big stone upon a hill, right, it is there an impending danger. It can fall, it can harm someone, right? So if that was left unattended to, that stone could fall, as we had some years ago in Cotamilli, and fall and hurt many people. But if we do something about the stone, if we identify that this hazard exists, right, you understand that the risk that it poses, and you do something to mitigate that risk, then it is possible that stone may never fall on someone. So disasters only occur when we do not take the appropriate action to prevent it. There are some things that happen that we cannot prevent. For instance, sometimes like Hurricane Beryl last year, where that we were able to prevent it. But for the persons who had their homes built to a certain strength and durability, they had less effect. The persons who might have had insurance, it affects. So it's not about so much what happened, but how am I able to respond? Am I able to respond? How quickly? In terms of the businesses, for many of the businesses who I interviewed, one of the businessmen in Karakou, and he said to me, no, he had some things in his head, but he didn't really have a written, business continuity plan. And he said, you know what? No, I'm going to put that plan in place so that it enables me to get up quickly as possible, because I know if I have fire, if I had a flood, all people have to understand that anything can happen anytime, right? That disasters and hazard events, they do not adhere to time frames. So as a consequence of this, we are rethinking, re-educating, re-encouraging the population to be in a state of constant readiness. We cannot deny the fact that a lot of houses in Karakou and Martinique was so badly damaged because of poor construction. So those are the things that we're thinking about. When you build in your house, you build with preparedness in mind.
Okay. Before we go a little further, I want to if you could clearly give us what are some of the hazards or that Grenada, right? That, and when I talk about Grenada, I'm not talking about the rock and the trees and the thing, etc. I'm talking about the people. The people are exposed to that we all should have in the back of our mind that, hey, this could happen to anyone at any time, rich or poor,
right?
Whatever race or creed, no matter where you live in, where your location is, etc., it can happen to anyone. And and I think it's someone phone. Yeah, and if we could
should we take them off?
Yeah,
it's on silent. We should
silent.
It's on silent.
All right. So if you could address that, please.
Okay, cool. Let me just take it off.
It's also possible that our radios, even though they're off, they're transmitting some frequencies.
Yeah.
And that might be a very good segue into...
Yes, we can talk about it and then we can put it outside.
Yes. because each of the staff members of the National Disaster Management Agency, as well as all 17 district coordinators, have radios, handheld radios, that were able to communicate with each other in the event of any hazard that may come. And we have instituted now a bi-monthly radio check. So every other Wednesday, we would check with the district coordinators to ensure that the radios are working. Of course, they're located in the vast between Carriacou, P.T. Martinique, Grenada, different areas. Some are in the rural areas, some are in the metropolitan St. George area. Some of them they're on their way home from work, and they're maybe traveling over the hills, and they're able to test that they're able to get connectivity in different parts of Grenada, Carriacou, and P.T. Martinique. And so, as we're practicing, the purpose of practicing every 2 weeks is to ensure that in case there's any event that has happened, we're able to get the information to the ground as quickly as possible. So, for example, our National Disaster Coordinator, Dr. Terence Walters, let's say he gets information from SEDEMA that there is an impending disaster. Hazard is coming. It has the potential of becoming a disaster. With one click of that button, he can broadcast to the entire Tri-Island area that something is coming, and we can start having our processes in preparation for doing what we need to do, right? So let's say, for example, God forbid, a hurricane is approaching. Yes, we can send information through emails, through all the media houses, etc., and that happens. But especially the district coordinators who are on the ground, who have to have their teams, their shelter teams in the shelters, etc., with one broadcast, we from the office can say, this is happening, you need to get ready. So we are actively ensuring that in case anything happens, any eventuality that occurs, we can get the information across to the Tri-Island state, and then we can make preparations, right? So that is really and truly what the National Disaster Management Agency is continuing to do. And not only that, we have been involved in various programs that from the upper echelons of decision makers. So earlier this year, we had what is called a comprehensive plan workshop, so that all of the various ministries, government ministries, meet in a room together with some trainers to develop their disaster plans for their own ministries. So that is something that is continuing to happen as well. So it's not only preparing the districts, ensuring that the shelter teams have their containers with the shelter manuals, etc., and ensuring that there are radios in the shelters as well, that generators and chainsaws are provided to the districts. But it also is ensuring that all the ministries are being more prepared for any disaster that would come. So it's not just the practical work that we're doing and giving physical resources, but also the theoretical resources, and getting everyone into the mind frame that we have to be prepared on every level, at our homes and also on our jobs.
Just to pick up on a point you made there, I don't want to lose it because I had it listed here. That issue of you said that you bring together all the departments in the ministries, etc. I remember I used to represent one of the ministries at those meetings, but the churches, I perceive that there is a neglect and overlooking of the church's role in all of this. And they're forgetting that the church is made up of people who live in a community and who are part of the nation. And of course, a lot of times their buildings end up being used as shelters and as distribution centers, etc. Remember, after Ivan, our congregation made that was the distribution for almost the whole of the South, right? But we are neglecting in being invited and getting involved in those discussions, so that and oftentimes the function of speaking on that issue may be left to somebody who maybe just have a passion but have no real training and the capacity to really how significant do you think is their role, and is there plans to do more to get the church involved?
I'm really happy you brought that up because not in the comprehensive ministry workshop, but what is the country work program discussion, stakeholder discussion, we always have the churches involved. So we understand that it's really important that the church be part of the conversation, because as you rightly mentioned, many of our shelters are in the churches, and our churches are actually very much involved in the conversation, the preparation, and the management of the shelters that are churches. So for example, all of the district coordinators, they are responsible for getting shelter managers and shelter teams, right? And most times it is members of the churches, the church management, as well as congregation members of the churches that are part of the shelter management team. Because of course, as people of God who care about the house of God, that are shelters, they ensure that they are part of the shelter management. So one, ensuring that in the case of any disaster, that persons respect the temple, the sanctuary, that persons are as comfortable as they can be, because we know people of God are very they care about one another. It's about brotherly love. So ensuring that there are preparations, there is resources that persons can use within the shelters, right? And going back to the training, for this year already, we had in January and in May, we had that country work program discussion, stakeholder discussion. And what that is, it is a 5-year plan that every country must have, and that includes disaster plans to ensure that, one, we're able to procure investments and funding from international bodies. So to be able to get resources from international bodies, we have to show that we have a working plan that, especially in the case of a disaster, we have steps in place. So every country needs to have that in order to even secure funding, right? So the churches have been part of this stakeholder engagement, right? So we understand the need for the church to be involved, and we are continuing to ask that if you even haven't heard from us, to reach out to us so that you can be part of that process.
Yeah, because I want to add a little bit to what she said, because earlier she talked about the fact that NADMA, right, operates purely on volunteerism. So it is incumbent upon the church, which is in the community, to have what happens, I think, is a lot of the churches, if you want to talk maybe mostly Pentecostal churches and some other churches, they do not have organized disaster related programs. For instance, the SDA, they are on the table because they have like disaster committees. They have a whole setup like that. Yes, and I know the International Pentecostal National IPA and IPA, Bishop Esther Baptiste, they have a toolkits program that also can get support from NADMA. So if the churches, who are in the community, they are people, they can volunteer on the district teams. They
And
can,
the Catholic Church has a volunteer on Caritas
That's
as
right.
well.
So you're saying,
Caritas,
you're saying that the evangelicals need to
evangelicals
we
need to
need
get
be
on
proactive.
board.
Yes.
Yes, they need to get on board, because we're not
Yeah.
going into churches asking people to come as a church,
Right.
but you live in the community,
Right,
and
right.
you can volunteer, you can make your voice heard.
Yes.
There are a number of committees, right? So wherever your skill is, for instance, you, Mr. Thompson, you might be able to join the media team,
Yes,
because
public
you have
education.
public education, and so you'll be able to to share. That's why we're here today, because whether you know it or not, you're part of the public education team. Because
Yes.
you have a radio station,
Yeah.
or radios and television and all media entities.
But
They are part
sometimes
of
we won't push ourselves if we're not invited.
it. No, you're right. The whole of us, we are all invited.
Yes.
And we need, as a matter of fact, if just for one committee, for instance, the shelter team, we need more than like hundreds of people in order to be
yes.
able to do what we need to do. So
Yes.
that's why we are
What
here.
is it that shelter management team does?
Okay. So the shelter management team is made up of the shelter manager, the chairperson, and a deputy, right? So these two persons are responsible for their district shelters, ensuring that each shelter has a team of at least 10. And the reason why we need such a larger number is because we understand that preserving the human resource to avoid burnout, to ensure that the shelter team, they're able to work for a shift as well as go home and tend to their families, get some rest. We need multiple persons. So we have currently 110 shelters across the Tri-Island state. So we need at least 10 per shelter. So that's already a great number, right? So in order for us to ensure that we do not have burnout, especially since this is volunteerism, and I personally know, because I've been a part of a volunteer organization for over 20 years. And that's actually how I came to NADMA. After Hurricane Beryl, I walked in to volunteer. I stayed there for about six weeks, and then I left, and there was a space to fill in, and I was called back because I had been part of the runnings of the organization, and now I'm employed here. But volunteerism, and that is possibly a conversation that can take us all day, is not even as it used to be 20 years ago. And as volunteer organizations, we have to understand the needs of our volunteers, understand why sometimes our volunteers really do feel burnout, because it's not that people don't care. It's not that people don't want to give of themselves. But I think that over the years, volunteers feel as if they've been taken for granted. They feel as if they are not valued for the work that they do and the resources that they put out, and so they feel, well, in order to protect my mental health, in order for me to not be burnt out, I will step back. So one of the things that we have to be mindful for, even as NADMA, as the Secretariat, is understanding the plight of volunteers and seeing how best we can cushion the effect of burnout and giving of themselves.
No, that's a good point you made there. I will tell you why. Because after Ivan, I was part of the team that was doing damage assessment, etc. Right? My house was destroyed. My roof was gone. I had my family and a young baby, just about a dog daughter baby, 2. She was about 4. Three years old. And I had to leave my wife and daughter every day and go to work to help farmers, etc. Assess that so they could get some money to start back, while my home was left neglected. And not only that, my employer didn't even think about a care package for me, how I feed in my family and things. While I'm out there, I can't go looking for food and things. So there is a serious rethink that has to be done about that. And I'm glad you're talking about this volunteers, because you burning and running, killing yourself out there, and your family is neglected, and nobody is really paying attention to them. So so it's a serious matter.
But I think that issue has been recognized, because we are in the process of doing a volunteer management system whereby you can, both target the volunteers, encourage people to come, have a database of who they are, where they are, those that they have training. We believe in training. A lot of our volunteers are more able to multitask during Hurricane Beryl because they have been trained in so many different areas. So there are also small resources that has been put into the budget to be able to support, like the cell phones, like they have a meeting, some refreshments, and different things that the community might need or the district team might need to be able to interact with the community. So little by little, we are putting the systems in place. And for the first time this year, we were able to put equipment and supplies, towards the district teams and those parliamentary offices to be able to have quick response to the community. We have been able to train a number of first responders in sorts to be able to, be the ones who might be able to stabilize, stop the bleed until
CPR.
help arrive,
Yes.
So we have put, this is not going to be a overhaul one time thing. It's a process that from previous years we had not had a number of things that we are now having, so this is that we are thinking about how what people do affect them, and we looked at how some volunteers, some of them leave based on who sometimes is in power, things like that. We have a lot of different dynamics happening. So we always have to replenish. So we always need volunteers. And I want people to think not only of just being a volunteer during a crisis, that you join the team, you get to know the team, you get to gel. So whenever there is a crisis of any sort, then that team can actually, put their hearts and hands together, because it takes a lot to be a volunteer. It takes a lot.
I think people have to understand that you're not serving an organization, you're serving people.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think, as you mentioned, people leave because
different things,
different political parties in power. That's absolute nonsense. You don't serve people. Sorry, you don't serve organizations. You serve people. That's what NADMA is about, serving, meeting the needs of people. Right?
And sometimes the person you would help might be your own family.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and when you withdraw yourself, you'll say, "Oh boy, if I was there, could I help that person?
Help.
Yes.
If I was there, could I help that person?" But you withdraw.
So we're not thinking in terms of, okay, you're coming for anything. Like you're coming, if you come to be a volunteer, the blessing comes out of the service.
Exactly.
So
And,
service to humanity.
yeah, and I've seen a number of volunteers advance to international, local, regional, and international, spaces
right.
because they have volunteered, because they've received certain kinds of training. Then the training that they would have received helped them to even develop their own, their own future.
Yes.
So this is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I may, because I am currently leading a volunteer organization, and one of the points that I make, because in working with volunteers, in being a volunteer and working with volunteers, we also have to be very realistic with ourselves and about our capacities and capabilities. And I'm going to expand on that. So it's the Girl Guides Association of Grenada. And when we're training our volunteers, we have what is called the Flexible Program. And in essence, what it is understanding your own self as a volunteer and understanding what is being required of you, as well as what you're actually able to do. So, for instance, many persons have the perception of volunteerism that I am a volunteer, and so just take what I have, how I have. I'm just going to show up when I want, how I want. Yeah. But we also have to take volunteerism seriously and understand its value. So, for example, if I know that I have, let's say, maybe children or an elderly person that I'm solely responsible for, I may not be able to work and live in a shelter for a few days after a disaster, right? But what I might be able to do is from 2 to 4 on a Tuesday, be able to give those 2 hours to that to that shelter, right? And first of all, as a volunteer, understanding that this is my limit, but I also want to give, and being very upfront and clear about that, right? So on the contrary, saying that I have this skill of shelter management and I can be a shelter manager, but knowing that at home I have other responsibilities and I'm not able to be there, I think, in the purpose of collaboration and cohesiveness and brotherly love, being very open and saying, I really want to volunteer, I really want to give of myself, but I only have 2 hours to give. And we accept that because we understand that everyone has their own responsibilities, but we want to have a clear picture so that we can make the best preparations that we can, right? So as in the organization that I'm in, that's one of the things that we are very clear about. Let's be honest about how much we have to give, and sometimes it's different stages in life. So a younger person who may not have children or so may be able to say, okay, I can do a 12-hour shift, and we welcome that, right? But that person may not have the experience of someone who has been working with volunteers or working with a ministry for multiple years. So we need a combination of persons who have more physical time as well as persons who have physical and intellectual resources who can give, right? So, we welcome a mismatch of resources and talents and time to be able to strengthen our volunteer resources. So the point of it is, you may not be able to give what you think we need, but actually what you have is also what we need. So maybe 2 hours, it may be that you have the skills of managing, you may have the skills of using the chainsaw, and you can spare a few hours once a month to do a training with others. We welcome that. We need that, right? So there is a space for everyone to be part of the volunteer system.
Yes, and we really saw that during Hurricane Beryl. Trust me, really beautifully. People came, people shared, and for some people who couldn't come, they sent food. Like we had some persons who would have ordered food for us while we were there night and day. And some people cooked food and brought some like simple things that can make a big difference. So what you want to be thinking about is, how can I help? And within the context of the district, we have, like Tamara said, 17 districts, and each district has a district coordinator and the deputy, also an entire team. Shelter management, it's like you have like relief and supply, that different, all of the structures that's within the system, transport and so on. So we have to be able to connect with your district team and present yourself, your skills, whatever you can do. And probably I could take a little time just to introduce you maybe to the district coordinators, and then maybe the deputies, you can get information from them afterward. If you need any information for numbers or any of that sort, you can always contact the National Disaster Management Agency. So for the town of St. George, we have Mr. Sylvan Chan, right? South St. George, Mr. Richard McField. So think about where you live, and I'll just be able to tell you who those persons are, right? St. George South, Nigel Gibbs. St. George Northeast, Ralph James. St. George Northwest, Dr. Malachi Dottin. St. John, Limerick Stanislaus. St. Mark, Javid George. St. Patrick East, Asha Julian. St. Patrick's West, Civil Francis. St. Andrews Northeast, Edith Williams. St. Andrews Northwest, Junior Thomas. St. Andrews Southeast, Clarice Simon. St. Andrews Southwest, Anderson Hopkins. St. David North, Andy Andrew, and St. David South, Petra Williams. Carriacou, Clint Alexander, and P.T. Martinique, Dwight Logan. So those are the district coordinators, and they have a deputy and an entire district team, right? So whether your skill is in shelter management, whether it is in transport, relief, health and welfare, safety and security, wherever it is that you are.
List all those areas there so that people could see whether
Right.
I mean, this is an area that I think.
Okay, fine.
First, I want to premise it that it mirrors the various ministries, government ministries. So, for example, public education and information, it mirrors
So each shelter has
Government information service. Yes.
Each
management team
committee-
comprised of
yes,
of
each committee mirrors the government ministries and is actually headed by the one of the managers within that ministry. So, for example, the Committee of Public Education and Information is headed by the director of GIS, right? So those committees are data and needs assessment. So that is so it mirrors, for example, the Central Statistics, office, right? Then we have shelter management, and that is headed by the Chief Education Officer, right? There's also the subcommittee, which is telecommunications. We have emergency works and transport, which would now mirror MIT, Ministry of Works, etc. We have supplies management, right? So we know there is a surplus of relief items that have to be distributed. So that committee is responsible for knowing what stocks the districts have, what the national EOC has, and just keeping stock of what that is.
Yes, and
We
that's
also
the previous MNIB. That's
who they were. Yes. Then there is health and welfare. That mirrors the Ministry of Health. So if you are a nurse, doctor, you have training in CPR, you've worked within the health
medical,
system,
the medical health
system,
system,
yes.
yeah.
And as we mentioned that, one of the things that I say when I go to the district meetings, because they're compiling a list of persons in the community who they can call on during a disaster time, right? So many times they have been making lists of like nurses and doctors, and I like to make the point, I say, check those who are retired, because we know in a national disaster, the persons, the medical workers would have to go to work. But persons who are retired, who have been part of the medical field, they may have a bit more time on their hands. So they're able to assist. And of course, they have a wealth of experience.
And I want to add to that, we sometimes we only stuck at nurse and doctor, but we have people who have bad teeth and they need their teeth to be checked.
That is a
We
very
have
good
a
point.
toothache or something. You
And
need dentists.
Having a toothache,
Having
having a toothache is a disaster in itself. You can't think, you can't do anything with a toothache.
You need technicians.
That is a
who
very
could
good point.
repair, who may be able to repair certain pieces of machinery, etc. So I think we really need to open up open up and stop walking in this silo mentality.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so continue.
Yes, so then we have public education and information. So that committee is responsible for getting the information out there. So that committee is headed by the director of GIS, right? And on the district level, these persons will be responsible for, let's say something is happening, there is an impending hazard, the potential to be a disaster, getting the word out there. So via social media, bullhorns, the persons who can talk, who knows everybody, these are the persons who would be on that committee. There's also safety.
Let me just add, though, that all of the committees have functions before, pre-disaster, during the disaster, post-disaster. So all of the committees ought to be functioning throughout the year.
Right.
Because when it's before a disaster, we are preparing, we are education, we are doing all this stuff. During a disaster, we are responding. After disaster, so like everyone has a role to play throughout the year. So I just wanted to add that.
And going back to the medical, you need some other psychologists and all these people there to,
Absolutely.
So I think we really need to broaden, especially because that's an area that sometimes is so neglected. You see people wandering, some people so traumatized, and there are people who may have had the skill in the community in Kongs and thing, and they're just sitting there doing nothing really, and they could really have impacted somebody's life. So I think we really need to get the information out there that every type of resource is needed. And I want to add that within the body of Christ, there's enough of those resources.
Plenty.
But volunteerism is really, sometimes I wonder how we could be followers of Christ and we don't want to volunteer.
Right? Because that's like service to humanity.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's what it's really all about.
That's what it's
find
about.
that people within the Christian context are mostly reluctant.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
But
it's a mismatch, really.
yes, I think after today that will change.
I really hope.
I really hope.
Because,
Persons begin to think.
you know,
Nobody has to come to your house to call
and
you
you
out
just-
to ask you to do something.
yeah.
You find out what the need is in your community and
Yes,
you
sir.
volunteer. And bring your friends along. So at
Yes.
least the church might have a little group. And I said, okay, let's do this. With the elderly this weekend. Let's do, something. I think we need to come out of
Yeah,
church
yeah,
sometime.
Yeah, the
yeah.
Sunday school.
We have
the Sunday
really-
school children
Teach the
can
children.
go.
It's
So,
really
yeah.
becoming
Visit the
dormant. I think the
elders.
church is we
so much
really
more
need
we
to
have
get
to
to
do.
get on the ball, man. Become more active,
Absolutely.
touching lives, and because there's so much resources.
That we
And I'm not
have.
talking about money now. I'm talking about just
Yes.
capacity, human abilities, talents, giftings. That is
we
just we
have.
just sit like we sit on we hand and we just saying, oh, look at this going on there, look at that there. But where's your hand and your feet and your voice? You know, making a difference.
And the idea of the NADMA system is that we had a mantra. We said, I am NADMA, you are NADMA. Together we are prepared. So that each and every one of us is responsible
Right.
for the state, disaster preparedness state of the country.
Yeah.
Because it starts on an individual level and it goes, I was talking to you even about the children, what you teach your children about how to prepare. Even if the child misses the bus, who to call, if
Where to
if,
go.
if where to go if something happens, somebody harm you, somebody hurt you, somebody trying to, what. Those are
What do
like
I do?
simple mental, it's like you kind of have the mindset of ensuring that you're always ready, always prepared. That's like the vigilance part of it. Yes, go ahead.
Even the children at home, that is important for every parent to have a chat with them, knowing this is what you're going to do. So let's say you're at home and something happens, making sure that they know the number to call,
Right.
the cell phone memorized,
Yes.
or you can
And
have it written
TNN.
down, who to call in case something happens,
Not
right?
not depending on the cell phone.
Well, I mean, and who to call within the context of the home and community, and who to call outside.
No, I'm talking about the
Because
cell
it
phone to
depends.
remember the number.
I know,
You're
I
supposed
know.
to know
Know the
people
number,
have the
yes,
numbers in your
in your
mind,
mind, yes.
not on your phone.
Yes.
You know,
Because-
phone has made a lot of us become so dumb where
that's true.
memory is concerned. You know, so you must you teach your children to what memorize
Memorize
their
the number.
parents' phone numbers,
And their names as well. Sometimes you may see a little child and ask them, "Who's your mommy? What's your mommy's name?"
and they don't know
Mommy,
them what their name.
Mommy,
The name is
these are
mommy.
things.
Mommy
These
and
are
daddy.
things that we
What's your mother
have
name,
to,
mommy?
we have to let them know
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
it's important that
Yeah.
that this is information that they have.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
That
they,
can
or they
save
may
a
only know a
person's
nickname, you know.
Right.
Maybe they call the child a nickname at home. And the other
Right.
child, what's your name? And he may give it a nickname, you know,
Right.
Baba.
Yeah.
What's your surname? And they like,
Because
Yeah.
something can happen. It's brought back to my mind when I was a bit younger, and we had something had happened at
That
home.
wasn't so long ago, anyways. Continue.
I like to think that. And actually, the stove just blew up. There were some faulty stoves a few years back, and it blew up. It blew up in my sister's face. And we had the landline. We actually still have the landline. So the children at home now, they can call us. They know
Right.
us, memorize
Something happens.
our cell phone numbers. So at any time they can call and reach out to us in case anything happens. And we knew my mom's number to call her. She was actually on the bus at the time, and she just asked the bus driver to just quicken his steps a bit. And we had a nurse who lived up the road. So it was after hours, but we quickly, one of us ran up to her and said, okay, this happened, and she was able to tell us what to do until we were able to go to the doctor, But just having a plan, a discussion, a consciousness that, in case anything happens, letting the children know, okay, this is what you're going to do. This is who to call. And if you're not able to reach me, this neighbor is the one to go to, Speaking to the neighbors as well and letting them know, just keep an eye on my child.
Yes.
Yes. Things like that. Just being part of the community again and just understanding that we all need each other. And we all need to be able to rely on each other for anything,
Yeah.
So as we're in peace times, now is a good time, just in case there's a little friction happening between you and your neighbor.
Fix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also that's what the district teams.
you're talking. I mean, I know there are people who are not Christians here, but we're supposed to be a Christian nation, so we're supposed to have no enemy.
Suppose,
If your enemy hungry, do what?
Feed.
And if he's thirsty,
Give him to
and
drink.
if he's naked,
Give him clothes.
Yeah, but you know,
and if he's sick, visit him.
Yes, I pray for him.
that is what the district teams literally do. You
Yeah.
know, you identify resources within the district,
Yes.
Yeah.
right, and communities that may be useful, like you said, the nurse up the road. And I had a story while I was interviewing some folks from Carrico that really touched me. That the person in the shelter manager. She said when everybody came to the shelter, she remembered there was an old lady up the road and she didn't see her come. When they asked for her, I guess everybody ran helter-skelter. Nobody didn't know where she was. So some men from the shelter went up to her house, literally bodily brought her down to the shelter. And when the storm was over, her house was nowhere to be found.
Wow.
So what if she did not
Jesus.
know where that old lady was, the elderly lady was? Then maybe she would not have been with us today. So that simple information, she thought, okay, so how come I didn't see this person? Where is that person? So that at least you'll be able to say, okay, somebody is missing, so you can get them before something happens.
So you say the shelter manager has to be a people person and has to be
People
The district team.
Can have a aloof mentality and figure I'm the shelter manager, I'm doing that, and I don't have a relationship with the community.
Right.
You have to-
right.
yes.
Yeah. The district team for that matter.
Yes.
Like so
Right.
you have to force them to interact with you. Because if anything happens, God forbid, then who you know. You know, it's
And
say
who knows you?
will
But it's
you
who
say
know
who
you as well. So who you know and who knows you,
Yeah,
right?
it really can mean the difference between life and death.
And that.
You know,
Right.
so that's
You know,
important.
Before we wrap, I want us to quickly and I hope this will not be the last,
No,
of this.
well,
it would not be the last.
Yeah, all right. I want to talk a little bit about 2025 and the outlook. The outlook. With that is concerning just for at least for storms, hurricanes, depressions, etc. We've passed. I would say about the halfway mark, right?
Yeah,
We're into September now, going on to October, but and nothing has happened really across the region, really. Thank God. But why? Give a little bit on the outlook and why we shouldn't let our guard down.
Wow, that's I think that's a very important question. So, based on what we do is look at, as you said, the outlook. So there are different sources, right? So the Colorado State University, as of the 5th of August 2025, which I think will be updated by now, had 16 named storms, 8 hurricane, and 9 major hurricane. As of August 7th, right? NOAA, National Oceanographic and Hemispheric Administration, they had 13 to 18 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricane, and 2 to 3 major hurricanes. So, I mean, regardless of whether we do an average of both, we realize it promises to be very active. And if we go back to Hurricane Beryl, we would realize that Hurricane Beryl, in most cases, surprised people because it came very early in the hurricane. That's why we say a hurricane can happen anytime. It can happen in January, February, March, anytime. During the year. So we don't just think about it as being within. You have to be in a state of readiness. And also with the impact of climate change, the hurricanes and storms, they are more frequent. They're stronger. It's stronger, and more unpredictable. So what we say, well, we didn't hear this, we didn't hear that. It is not as if you're looking through some crystal ball, and you can see exactly, because the weather pattern is not behaving as probably many years ago, when you could have actually have very close predictions. So sometimes you might say one thing happening, then something else happened. That has nothing to do with it. The weather patterns are all over the place. So as much as possible, persons might say, well, they see things here and they see things there, and they didn't hear NADMA say what the Met Office does. And let me say, NADMA does not make the prediction. NADMA is not responsible for what the prediction is, whether it's, for instance, we had Kikam Jenny acting up, recently.
Yes, a few weeks ago.
It was not NADMA. NADMA has to depend on information from seismic, right? So that we'll be able to tell the public what's...
And they do give us great information.
Trust me.
And the Met Office as well.
Yes.
Multiple times a day.
So, right. And that's what another thing I want to say. People do not pay attention to the information as it's coming 3 times, 4 times a day. But if an impending disaster, is approaching, then has an effect. People say, oh my God, you have to constantly be in the know. Yes. So, consume the information on a daily basis. You have the ability to be able to see and understand how the things are predicted and what's actually happening in a general sense. Yeah. And when you get information from outside, it's good, but sometimes the information is not tailor-made to our present construct. Right. So that's what we try to do, as we collaborate with other people.
Well, as you're talking about, I just want to hit on this point. Mm-hmm. Who should we rely on for information?
NADMA is the official source of all disaster-related information. So the Met Office can't put it out without NADMA. And NADMA can't put it out if the Met Office didn't give us.
Yes.
So we are the one responsible for the dissemination. And it's not only the Met Office, seismic, if it's an oil spill, it's like different entities are responsible for. So for instance, when it was COVID, right? COVID, the Ministry of Health was responsible for COVID. You understand? So it depends on what the hazard event is, then we get information. That's why we said all of those entities are around the table. Yes. So the entities, so for instance, something happened, they come around the table and they report what's happening. And NADMA, as we collaborate with the entities.
So you're saying that before Hope FM puts out anything on any, it should be, the source should be NADMA.
That's right. So
and we should clearly say that the source of this is NADMA. We shouldn't go on the internet, on some other media house, etc. to see. So
you shouldn't be disseminating information from some international entity.
Or saying this is from Hope FM.
Right. No. So what has to happen? One of the things that we talk about fake news, what it calls persons will be sending out information that is not. What we want people to do is if someone sends you any information before you share it. Verify.
What's the source?
Verify.
What's the source of this?
I had a experience where someone I know, a minister of God, sent me some information. And when I saw the information, I was like, oh my God, this thing is serious. Yeah. I'm looking at it, I'm reading it over and over. And then I just thought, let me just call.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to share it because of who it was coming from. Yeah. Like I trusted the source. Yeah. But when I verified, he received the information from someone, but he didn't verify.
Discredit.
So because I trusted him, I was about to share, but my better judgment says, which is what we're encouraging persons to do. Make sure you verify. Well, you might see someone might have had an accident and a person died by the side of the road, God forbid. And before you take your phone and record that person, first of all, some people not even calling 911. They just recording. That's another story for another day. But if the before you share it, you have to remember that person have a family. That person has people who care about them, and the person might just see this thing on the internet, realize there's a family member, somebody close, back the person falls with heart attack, something happens. So this is very serious. It's not a joke. And the advent of social media. I mean, although social media is good, you get information quicker, and you have access to more information, right? The downside of it is that sometimes you're actually consuming information that is far from truth.
In fact, I was part of the, I'm not blowing a horn, etc.
It's okay.
I was part of the decision making with regards to who is the authority for any climate-related information, because we were having a lot of issues with Met Office producing things, NADMA producing things, and creating some confusion, etc. So we had a committee met ourselves, NAWASA, NADMA, Met Office, and met and say, listen, there must be one voice.
That's right.
Speaking.
Yes. And that's what we need, and that's what we encourage. We have our stakeholders around the table at all times, because even in the after action review where it was the ministries as well as the government agencies, Grenleg, Nawasa. We had the oil and gas companies, Rubis and Sol. We had IOCOM,
Private
Digital
entities.
Flow, around the table talking about one, what went well during burial, as well as what didn't go well and what needs to be better.
Postmortem
So
and
having
debriefing, yeah.
everybody, yes. So
Yeah.
we had that in January, and we had persons. It was over a course of a few days. We had mediators, and it was documenting what was happening, understanding the pitfalls, and then producing a document where going forward we're saying
basically
this
an
is
action plan.
yes,
Action
an
plan.
action plan as to in the future based on what we've learned from Hurricane Beryl, this is how we're going to go forth. And I just wanted to make a point as well that I want the public to be confident that our ears are always on the ground,
Right.
and there's always things that are happening, right? Now, currently as well, we are in the process of updating the Kikem Jenny monitoring system. It is a $700,000 project that is going to happen in 24 months to update that monitoring program, that monitoring system. So there are a few monitoring systems all over the Tri-Island state. So there is in Kublal, there is in Karakou, there is in and a few other points. Now, some of the systems got damaged during Hurricane Beryl, and they're currently they're in the process of being updated. We're also in the process of completing the Tsunami Ready project.
Right.
So just on Wednesday, I went along the coast with one of the project personnel to reestablish where the signs are going to be based on the coordinates, so that persons know that this is a tsunami hazard area. These are the areas you need to run to for higher ground. So there are all of these ongoing projects that are happening to ensure that Grenada is ready in the eventuality of any hazard.
Yeah.
So not only hurricanes,
Multi-hazard.
but tsunamis as well. And as I was going, we were walking around St. George's and identifying the areas where the signs would need to go. And I have my radio. I'm saying that I'm from NADMA. I'm speaking to the managers because there are certain areas that would need to put the signs. We would need to have a conversation to put the signs there. And persons were there and they were asking. So I said, this is a tsunami hazard area, and this is where we need to put the sign. And persons in the establishment are saying, wait, is something happening? They had heard about Kikem Jenny. And I just gave them the information there on the spot. And I said, actually, and that is for general knowledge, one thing that a tsunami needs is time and distance. So actually, God forbid, in the eventuality that Kikem Jenny erupts, is actually islands further away from us, Barbados and Trinidad, that would be more impacted, right? Because a tsunami needs some time and distance in order to hit, right? But of course, another earthquake can happen in another part and we be impacted by a tsunami. So wherever you are, just understanding in case there is an earthquake, you're going to hold on, you're going to drop, you're going to cover. In case of a tsunami, just knowing that the higher ground is where I need to be. In case of a flood, knowing this is where I'm going to go, I'm going to get out of my vehicle and I'm going to get to higher ground. Just having a conscious mind at all times that in case anything happens, this is what I need to do. I think all of us having that in our minds is an important step that each and every Grenadian needs to do. So I just want to make that point.
I mean, I'm conscious. You're asking about hazard earlier. So you have tsunamis, you have floods, you have fires, you have earthquakes, landslides, So it's like we are literally living within a danger zone.
Droughts, you talk about droughts.
Right, oh my God, we talk about drought, and all of them have negative
Biohazards
impacts, right? Then we have things like oil spills, like different things that are likely to affect us.
Seaweed.
Yeah, you can have a major incident like an accident,
mass casualty event, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we are living within the context of anything that has the potential to cause harm. Right, and a disaster only occurs when the hazard event has exceeded its ability, the individual or community or country's ability to respond without outside help.
Yes.
So you can have a personal disaster, you can have it within the context of the family, within the context of the community, and on a national level, that has to be declared, right? So this is not something you wake up and say we have a disaster just because it rains a lot or because we have a hurricane. That has to be a cabinet decision that has to declare the area a disaster zone or the country or the event a disaster event. So it is not, disasters are not natural. It is like we have natural hazards, right? But we don't have natural disasters.
It's only a disaster if we don't have enough personal resources or local resources to respond. Yes.
To respond without outside help.
And
that is contingent upon preparedness in the vast majority of the cases.
Okay. Good. So it was really a pleasure having you on today.
Yes, it was nice.
I think that there's a lot of information that was given out, and I think we going forward we'll have to break it down into and go more into details. You know,
Because for instance, I mean, even before we go, for instance, the shelters, like, you know, we have like 110 shelters, and within the context of the shelter, we say your home, you should be preparing your home to be your first shelter. Because we have 110 shelters, what's the size of the population? So obviously we do not have enough shelters for everyone. So if you think when you're renovating or renovate to accommodate, you know, some kind of shelter within your home, then if your home is not, you know, able to accommodate you, then you have a close family member, a friend, somebody in the community, and if all of those fail, that is when you will go to the shelter. Then if you go to the shelter, there are rules. You don't go drinking, fighting with your partner. You are sharing space with strangers, right? You have to sleep within the context of people you don't even know. So it's like you want to be able to think about it. You can carry your pets and you can send your children to the shelters, you know, so there are different rules. So like you said, when we come back the next time, we might take one or two specific areas and just break it down. We appreciate this very much. Yeah.
Well, it's always a pleasure to, you know, have these kinds of topics on Hope FM. You see, Hope wasn't designed just to take care of the spiritual, to take care of the whole man.
Right.
That's the vision God gave us. You know, so we do a lot of these social focus programs that people could be educated. An educated Christian is a effective Christian.
Dynamite, actually.
You know, you know, you can become more effective, and your contribution to the kingdom of God is multiplied.
Amen. And so, if I must say, I am a fan of Hope FM. I'm fangirling a little bit. I actually wasn't me who was supposed to come here this morning to speak, so this is my first time here. And particularly there is a Tuesday session in the evening where the men speak about being men of God, being head of the family, speaking about family matters and marriage and parenting. And I wish the sessions never end, because as a young woman and as a young Christian,
why you're listening to that.
well, I am in a season of my life, as well as it is so enriching to hear men of God talk about the realities of life, what it means to be a man of God, or what it means to curate a family of God. And I want you all to know that the work you're doing is the Lord's work.
Yes.
You may not even see through the views the real impact of what is happening, but it is really changing lives. And I want to encourage you all to keep it up, keep up the good work, and
Praise
just
the
know
Lord.
that lives and ministries are evolving as you speak the word of the Lord.
Yes,
Amen.
and I echo it very well. To say, first of all, that you're part of the NADMA team. And to say, second of all, like Nehemiah said, you're doing a good work. Don't come down.
Well, here, my brother Sabi says you need to be at the Epic Marriage Conference then. There's a singles. There's a
Yes,
single
I'll make
session
sure
this
I would
Saturday.
invite her, Brother
Yeah.
Sabi. She needs to be at that episode.
Changing lives, amen?
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
Changing lives, impacting more.
Yes,
So
thank
thank
you so much.
you. And as I was saying earlier on, next time this program is held, Ruth will be here and you will be on the next side, right?
That's okay.
As it should be.
yeah. So we make
Sound like I'm volunteering.
we make a slot for NADMA, you know, as a public awareness
Yes, so we can just come and
responsibility
talk.
come and host a program
Technical operator.
to talk about
Yes.
those issues.
But you are a very good interviewer. You can stay there, you know. Thank you so much. It was really good. Thank you so much.
Okay,
And remember,
blessed.
readiness is resilience. And
Amen.
resilience
Starts
begins with
with
you.
you.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's time to become climate smart. We must get involved as Christians. Let us adapt and build resilience to reduce the impact of climate change. This ad is sponsored by Grenade.